welcome to the TEMi Awards Unpacked. It's great to have you all here today, and I'm looking forward to sharing with you some of the winning submissions. Now, I can hear somebody's microphone, so I'm going to ask you to all mute just for the time being. Thank you. And what I'd like to do is introduce you to some of our winners that have joined us here today. So let me see. Ursula, I can see that you're there. Global Mobility Champion of the Year. Well done and congratulations. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Happy to be here. Sorry I was a little bit late. We had training.
This is what it's all about. Yeah, training. Absolutely. Ursula, while I have you here, I wonder if you could share, obviously you won the Global Mobility Champion of the Year, and that's not just necessarily about a program, yeah? It's about actually, I suppose, contributing to the industry as a whole. And one of the things that TEMi is really big on is trying to provide people with an opportunity to grow their personal brand. So I was hoping you might be able to just share a little bit with everybody about what sort of motivates you and the sorts of things that you actually do to raise and elevate the global mobility profession.
Yeah, look, if I reflect on 2022, I really just threw myself all the way out there. So I think that's part of it, is not having any fear and just starting, and whatever your journey is to elevate your program or mobility generally, just start. So I went on a journey of, really being on LinkedIn and talking about things. And I think it was important to have an opinion. So not just regurgitating whatever, my employer was saying, but really just adding my own feel to it and perspectives. Then I really got involved with speaking and sharing my insights as well. So really had to get comfortable speaking off the cuff. And I think all of us are experts or on the way to being an expert. So you know what you're talking about. So being able to express those ideas with other people in a manner that is not so technical that their kind of eyes roll over and they want to have a nap, but keeping it lively and engaging, and then adjusting that message for the audience. So then moving to Melbourne, really just, trying to create a community around me and really connecting with people individually and having a coffee chat and just, again, talking about what are people's concerns, what are people talking, what's happening, and then sharing that with other people. Because that's kind of what you do, Deb, is that community element of, okay, well, are you offering remote work, or, what's the trend? Everybody wants to know what's happening. So sharing that with people around is also useful. And then I think another area, the last thing I did was really try to be an advocate for the people who I feel don't necessarily always have a voice at the table. So connecting with females and diverse people to help them along their paths.
Yeah, thank you. It's quite inspirational, and you're right. You did sort of throw yourself into that last year, and exciting to see. Yeah, because global mobility as a function, not everybody does that. There's a lot of I would say quiet achievers, people who work behind the scenes. And one of the beauties, I think, from the TEMi Awards is to be able to shine a light on those individuals. So thank you for your contributions over the last 12 months, and I can't imagine what you're going to get up to this year, but we will all be watching with bated breath to see where Ursula, where she heads and what we've got in store for us all. Thank you.
Keep checking it out, Deb.
Yeah,
Thank you.
keep checking you out. Now, Monique Dawson is on the line, and Monique was actually the judging chair last year. So, Mon, can I throw it over to you just to talk a little bit about the different applications that we received? And because I don't get to see very many of the applications, if I'm ever so honest, it's all done outside of my line of sight. But Mon, are you there? Can you have a bit of a chat what we came across and the different initiatives that were out there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it was, as always, super inspiring. And I think particularly as a service provider, it was really great to see service providers and sort of corporates all together kind of competing at this. And I think it's testament to some of the people on this call, and Ursula yourself as well, obviously being in that space. One thing, so I was on the judging panel the prior year as well, and I think that was very much on, you know, how are people dealing with the pandemic? What are we doing? Moving quickly, and all about agility. Whereas this year, I really thought it was much more on how we're actually taking the things that happened in that time and using it either to our advantage or changing what we're doing, coming up with exciting new ways of work. I think that, remote work was a huge one, and I think we're all kind of in the midst of that now. So it was really taking advantage of some of those challenges and seeing how we can adjust what we're doing. There were some really great automation applications, which I personally thought were great, where, you know, it's time to be a bit more strategic in a lot of mobility functions. And I love to see that, you know, looking at those transactional tasks, how are sort of different companies automating that. And a lot of it was done internally, which was so impressive as well. I'm not a coder, and it's not a normal mobility skill set, but I know there are applications that there certainly were. So overall, it was awesome. I think I was looking at all the names here, and I think a lot of you were involved in that. So yeah, just really inspiring, lots of different applications. Yeah, as I said, I particularly really like the service provider and corporate integration, those partnership awards. I think they were really great as well. So yeah, for people who didn't apply, highly recommend you do. I've sort of been a partial winner, I guess you could say, and it really does kind of help your own business cases as a mobility function, and as a person, it's nice to get rewarded for some of the things that maybe are taken for granted as well. So yeah, well done everyone. It was phenomenal this year. So good job.
I was thanks, Mon. I was actually talking to some past winners the other week, and you know, they were saying how much it had changed their career. And I suppose if we combine what you're saying, Monique, with what Ursula's saying about, you know, personal profiling, it really did mean that this individual who had worked in a global mobility group, all of a sudden she was literally front and center. The CEO was walking down the office and knocking on her door, and that, you know, hadn't happened before for her. So I think there's a lot to be said for applying and certainly putting your best foot forward, without a doubt. Now, Anna, we have Anna Caval here. Anna won the Team of the Year. And Anna, you've got a team in 2 locations. I think from memory, there was an application with 2 photographs of 2 very, very good-looking team members. Would you like to share a little bit about your team and also maybe the work that you were actually working in? Because from memory, your area was more around that medical health industry that you've been supporting.
Yep. So hi everybody, very nice to see you all. Yes, so we have a team in Sydney and a team in Melbourne, and then we have relocation consultants right across Australia and into the Pacific who are kind of on the ground and actually helping the people who are moving for work. And so our team, we're a destination service provider, and we are helping them settled into their new life and make sure that everything goes smoothly and that they can get on and do the job they were hired to do, and that families and children and everybody's okay and happy. And I think I would really resonate or echo what Monique was saying about just give it a go. We are a small business, and I previously had looked at TEMi and like, oh my God, huge companies, you know, like what could I ever say against huge companies and all the amazing things that they do and the mobility things they do. But actually, when you sit down and think about what you do in your world and the impact that you do make on a daily basis, you can come up with some fantastic initiatives, whether that's internal with your own team or external. And also, like Mon was saying, like the previous few years, it's just been, you know, fighting, putting out fires left, right and center. And then 2022 came along and it all just went completely mental, as people could not get people quick enough. Companies couldn't get people into the country quick enough. And so we were sort of constantly behind the 8 ball. But one of the initiatives that I think particularly, well, I think may have resonated with the judging panel was that we started an engagement with a healthcare provider who had obviously limited budgets and a real dearth of healthcare professionals in Australia that they really, really needed. So they went on a large international recruitment drive, and because budgets were low, we were not able to deliver the same level of hand-holding support we might be doing for executives in corporate moves. And so we ended up working with our IT people to design a kind of DIY online version of what we do. So it very much enabled us to have a hands-off approach, but still arm the people with the knowledge that they needed to settle fast and, you know, be effective and tick all the boxes and be compliant and all that sort of stuff, sort of at arm's length. And so that as well allowed us to do high volume because they just came in really fast. So it was I was really pleased about that, because now that functionality in our system could be rolled out around the world. If there were other destination service providers that had other healthcare clients, I don't know, in the States or Canada or wherever, they could apply the same thing. So I think that was I was quite proud of that. Yeah.
Fantastic. And I think as part of that team of the year, there was a lot of focus around how your team came together as a unified group. And you had implemented some really interesting ways to bring your team together. Do you want to share a little bit about what makes your team sort of special and how you got them all to click?
Oh my goodness. You see, I just do stuff and then it ends up actually like resonating. But I think our people are amazing givers, and they're very, very empathetic, and they genuinely care and they want to make things okay. But with that comes a burden of absorbing a lot of angst and stress of the people who are relocating. So it's really important that we protect those people and that we arm them with the skills that they can have that resilience, so they can be there to help and support, but it's not affecting them personally, and they're not burning out and just saying, I can't do this anymore. Because I think everybody on this call would agree that it's quite a stressful thing to go through. And I'm sure we've all experienced being on the receiving end of stressful conversations with people who are moving. And so again, like, you know, we're a small business, so even if you're a huge business, you could just do it with your local little team. But we implemented like a buddy system, so each person had someone that they could chat to. There's also the working from home. A lot of people lose that water cooler chat. You don't get the opportunity to go and have a coffee so often anymore. You might not see certain people very often. So yeah, the buddy program was quite good. And then we did a whole series of workshops on like wellness and stress management and setting boundaries and saying no, because when you're a service provider, it's really hard to say no. So how do you say no nicely?
That's right.
Yeah.
I think, you know, it doesn't matter how big or small your organization is. And this is one of the things that, Anna, I think, you know, you can take away from this is that, you know, some of these strategies can be applied, whether it be a small team or whether it be a large team. And it was really about thinking outside the box and looking at the impact of what those solutions actually had that really did resonate with the judges and obviously elevated your submission. So yeah, huge congratulations. You did well, definitely well deserved. Thank you for sharing. Now, I might move on to one of in the awards, there are two individual awards that we give out. One of them is the Outstanding Achievement Award. And that award is normally, it's one that the individual has no idea that they are actually going to be nominated. Somebody from within their organisation takes it on themselves to nominate a particular person. And they do, the nominee does the interview with the task force members, and then I or Monique get the privilege of getting on the phone and ringing and letting the individual know that they've been nominated. It's pretty cool. It's really exciting from my point of view to actually have to do it. And this year's winner was actually Jonathan Dunley. Jonathan, are you there? I want to throw over to you. There you are. So huge congratulations. Jonathan had done a enormous amount. Everyone knows that PwC obviously did their shift, and lo and behold, here we have Vialto, and Jonathan was the man who had to lead the way. And Jonathan, I thought, you know, it's not a program that you implemented, but my God, you had to do a massive transformation. So I wanted to throw it over to you to maybe share some of your insights on what it's like to lead something like that, sort of a massive transformation project, and how you managed to get through it.
Thank you. Thanks. Hi everyone. Yeah, look, and thank you. And thanks, I think Selena's on the call, who I need to thank for the nomination as well. I mean, as I sort of said on the awards, it's very much like a team effort. So the 12 partners and 2 managing directors in Australia, right, we're all sleeves rolled up, trying to lead our clients and our teams through the transaction. But it was a hugely exciting thing to be involved in. It was kind of every emotion under the sun throughout that period, but like a great learning experience, and a chance for a lot of people who've kind of grown up in a Big Four environment, who probably never envisaged the opportunity to be part of a big corporate transaction, to really kind of do something and be the founding generation of a new business. So look, there's plenty of things that we got right and plenty of things that we didn't, because there was basically no playbook to follow. So we were sort of testing and learning as we went. But I think some of the things that helped us here in Australia was just kind of having a really tight, close partnership team, which were already tight even when we were in PwC days. But this sort of brought us all much closer together. So we had a fairly kind of unified vision about where we needed to go in terms of leading our clients and leading our people through the transaction. I would say some stuff that we did that I think worked well was just trying to be as transparent and honest as we could, which is not always that easy when you know, in kind of a fast-moving, complex deal environment. You don't always have perfect information. You can't always get quick answers. You can't address every question as comprehensively as you'd like. But I think hopefully showing to our staff that like we were sharing everything that we possibly knew, and trying to get them excited and bought into the vision of leading them out of the Big Four firm. But kind of painting this picture around where we could take this as a business, and their role as part of the kind of founding group of staff. So it was lots of staff engagement, lots of one-to-ones, lots of peer group sessions, lots of kind of town hall, ask anything type things, which were always like frightening things in prospect, but once you actually got into them, were kind of really energizing, and were always great discussions. So I think kind of, and then giving people roles, so breaking it out to work streams, giving people a chance to feel like they're actually helping build the business. So I think that's, as a leadership team, that's really what we tried to do. And from a client perspective, I guess our number one objective was just to kind of make sure clients understood why we were doing what we were doing, and what it would mean for them in the future, and then to try and make the transition as seamless as possible. So, you know, in the back office, from an operational perspective, it was complicated. It had little bumps, but by and large, it went well, considering no one had the sort of prior experience in PwC of doing a global transaction on this scale. So we made it as easy as possible for our clients, and we were just really lucky that all our people and all our clients came with us, which we were hugely grateful for. But I certainly found the client conversations really energizing, and you know, even when the sort of the operational and the systems and the IT stuff feels like it's a bit overwhelming, you have a great client conversation about what we're trying to do, and that really put the sort of the energy, kind of put the wind back under our wings. But no, so it was great, like so many learnings, such a different year, but yeah, just really proud of the leadership team and our staff for getting us through it, and really grateful for the award as well. So thank you, Deb.
No, pleasure. So thank you, Jonathan. Talking transformation, I think Lee, I think you are on the line here somewhere. I can see, yes, there you are.
Yes.
Come on up. So Lee Williamson and Tracy and Caitlin are from Curtin University, and huge congratulations to both, well, the whole team, because yeah, talking transformation, you won the Transformation Award. Would you like to share a little bit about where you had come from and where you are now, and obviously, you know, the steps that you took within that transformation program, because I think this particular case study is really great. A bit like Anna was saying, you know, you don't have to be huge to make an impact. This is all about the impact that you actually had in the organization. So I'm going to hand it over to you, and please share with us how you went on that lovely transformation journey.
Sure. Thanks, Deb. Thanks for the intro. Hi, everybody. Tracy and I have had quite a large couple of years. The transformation has, in summary, it began with a spreadsheet of approximately 50 names of employees that may or may not still be working with Curtin, may or may not be working overseas. We're not really sure where they are. We were pretty sure we were not compliant in any way whatsoever if they were working overseas, and yeah, just walked into quite a substantial project when we first started with Curtin. So first things first, we essentially had to address the list, and from a duty of care perspective, had to determine where they were, see if we could make good where they were in terms of compliance with the local jurisdiction where they were living. And as things evolved, we realised working in a tertiary education institution as big as Curtin with 6,000 employees and having a mindset where they have always worked wherever they wanted to, because that's the nature of research. They want to do a research collaboration overseas, then they just go and tell us after the fact. So we realised we were up against quite a big mindset change. So there was a lot of, the transformation, changing mindset, changing processes, and rolling out process that was much more formalized and a considered approach, rather than the ad hoc, okay, I'm going to go to Japan for 6 months, see you later, leaving us in turmoil and wondering what would happen if, for example, they were in New Zealand when the earthquake hit, etc., etc. So we started there about 2 years ago, and I'll now hand over to Tracy, who can talk about the solution that we then implemented to formalize the process.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lee. Hi, everybody. So one thing that we also should add to that, Curtin was, their global mobility function was fairly immature and young, but their function also mainly focused on inbound compliance activities. So visa applications for people coming to Australia and relocations for people coming to Australia. All this other stuff, as Lee said, sort of just happened in the background and nobody was really aware of it. When we came into this and popped into it, we were like, oh, what's going on? And to caveat this, Lee and I have only been at Curtin for about 2 years, two and a bit years. So we have actually walked into something and gone, oh, this is not exactly right. So the main problem was the compliance in the overseas jurisdiction. There was this underlying thought that if you had a tax file number, an Australian tax file number, and you were paid into an Australian bank account, then you can work wherever you want in the world. Unfortunately, that is for those who are advisors, that is not correct. There's serious implications, and we then tried and we successfully implemented what we call our overseas working arrangements process. Now that process basically, and we still use it now, is when someone worked overseas, and in this case we were doing a lot of it retrospectively, but if someone wants to go overseas, they, being the faculty or area, had to complete a form which asked us or asked all these questions, and to complete or to prepare the form, we actually liaised with who we call our internal advisors. So our internal advisors were from corporate tax, employment law, insurance, risk. Universities have special areas to do with foreign relationships, and also our IT people. So we put this list together asking them, so what are the questions that you need to know? Because in the past, what would happen is someone wants to go overseas. If they actually consulted with someone, they might only consult with corporate tax, or they might only consult with insurance. There was never a holistic approach. And so we put that in place, and Global Mobility effectively became advisor to the university. we became the subject matter experts and the collation of that information. And that's probably the biggest part of the transformation. We've gone from an inbound compliance focused function into more of a consultative specialist subject matter expert function. And that's probably across the board, not necessarily just with your outbound, but also with your visas. Lee's expertise in the visa space has also helped with that. The transformation, it's one thing, as everybody knows, with change, to put a process in place, but to actually get people to use it is quite difficult. So we got our external global mobility tax provider. Another thing we did to transform was to appoint one mobility tax provider, because we had 3 or 4 before that. And they held sessions with head of schools, school business managers, and our pro-vice chancellors, and actually talked through what are the risks, obligations and implications for Curtin when people worked overseas. So they gave the whole process almost like authenticity. So it's not just coming from someone internal, because we knew, and Lee and I, with our backgrounds, we could have done this presentation, but we knew that the university probably wouldn't accept that. So we utilised our external providers and put it in place. And I've got to say that since January last year, when we implemented it, we've had 60 requests come through. We are pretty much compliant as much as we can be where we are, and if we're not compliant, it's been a considered and measured risks that we've taken. So that transformation has sort of been really helpful, and now it's helping us with our sort of remote work. I think Monique mentioned before that this is a big topic for everybody, but now it's really forming the basis of what our remote program will be like going forward.
Yeah. Thank you, Tracy. I think what stands out to me there is transformation just doesn't happen overnight. It is a long process, and it doesn't just necessarily have to start in one year and finish in another. You can start in one and it can take, a couple of good years to actually move forward. But obviously you are after a bit of a cultural shift, as well as implementing policies or procedures. And it sounds like you actually have been able to achieve that as well.
Yes.
Slowly, but we're getting there. Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think one of the things that certainly a lot of when the judges are looking at a lot of the awards, they do like to look for statistics and things to back that up. Would you agree, Mon, that a lot of the applications that really shone in this particular last year did do what Curtin did? I think Curtin, gosh, I think you guys had multiple documents that were attached to the application, which was really helpful because it actually highlighted a lot of information that the judges needed to look at.
Yeah, testimonials as well were awesome. So any evidence backup and testimonials are really helpful. And even if it's just like an email that you've saved on something smaller that says great job or whatever it was, I think that really brings it to life as well. Yeah,
true. It's a little bit more than just the motherhood statement. It was a great job by the Curtin guys. So yeah, huge congratulations on behalf of everybody.
Yes.
Now, let's have a look. Who else have we got here? Amanda Beasley. New Way of Working Awards.
Oh, yes.
Well done.
Thank you.
We've talked about like the remote work and all of this wonderful stuff. And it was one of those awards that we put in place at the beginning of COVID. And it has well and truly taken off. But yes, Amanda Beasley, would love you to fill us in on what you got up to actually win that one.
Just plug my laptop in for starters. That would help. I'm about to lose power. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Okay, yeah. So this was really a journey that Accenture took in regards to fill the skills shortage that we're experiencing. And I think most organizations over the last few years were struggling with this. We had extended COVID border closures. We had a skills exodus, nearly 500,000 migrants left Australia between March 2020 and August 21, and we were really struggling. We were growing as an organisation. We had a number of big projects that were coming off the ground, and we didn't have the skills to fulfil. So we started looking at maybe different talent pools that would never normally in a kind of corporate arena be considered. And it was probably near the end of maybe mid 2019, we joined forces, or for my learning, you know, came across Talent Beyond Boundaries. I think if anyone has heard anyone speak from TBB or have had anything to do with them, you just get blown away and completely swept up into, how have I not known about you? What an amazing organization, and how can we join forces? So we were very excited. And I think, you know, I've been in mobility for over 10 years. Such a learning. I think that's what's so exciting about mobility. You learn things all the time, and realizing, you know, they had 30,000 skilled workers that available to any corporate that you could tap into, and just the plight of these refugees. I think it was an incredible coming of forces together. So they won us over very quickly in mobility, but that's one thing. We then, you know, we needed to get everyone else aligned across the business. And that went from HR to recruitment to talent supply to our exco to leadership. You know, it, of course, the plight it aligned with our inclusion diversity strategies, but at the end of the day, they needed bums on seats and they needed skilled people to come in. So there was a lot of questions raised about, you know, what kind of visa are we going to bring these people on? How long is it going to take? What's the additional costs? You know, is this just going to look good on paper, but in actual fact, the practicalities of it is going to be too difficult? So mobility, we did a lot of research around trying to alleviate some of the fears that people were having. We worked with some resettlement agencies to understand, you know, what do we think, you know, we know how to move a corporate person internationally. We don't know how to move a refugee. What are the things we need to think about? You know, the simple transaction stuff and logistics of opening bank accounts. If you do not have a passport and you do not have 100 points, what do we need to consider? So we built up and tried to get ourselves knowledgeable as much as possible. And we got the deal signed from leadership. Yep, go ahead, open up the talent pool to Talent Beyond Boundaries. Let's see what we can do. So we've had a number of successes. I think anyone, again, who's met Fadi Shalouhi, who was our first stateless individual who was based in Lebanon at the time. He came across to Accenture and has been employed with us since 2019. I shared the video with the TEMi judges as well. Fadi's story is so moving, you can't help but bring yourself to tears about what, you know, somebody being born stateless, what that actually means to an individual. He's been our huge success story. And then from that, the momentum has just gathered, continued at Accenture. So we were also one of the first organizations who signed up to the labor agreement under the skilled refugee pilot. And this pilot was originally allowing, I think it was 100 displaced people the opportunity to move to Australia. And it was going to do things like streamlining some of the mandatory documents that were needed. By the time the pilot came into place, our borders were actually closed. So this was another great opportunity for Accenture because it meant our individuals could quickly get permanent residency. They wouldn't need to apply for I can't even think what it was called now. Somebody remind me, the terrible thing you had to go through to get people in during COVID. But regardless, it was another opportunity to bring in skills from a refugee pool in a very terrible time during COVID. So we've had successes with that. We've had successes. We've also got an Accenture's veteran network group. We have had another individual that's come through that who's working in our defense industry group. We have another, we hired 3 interns that have come through originally from Afghanistan. And we also have an individual who arrived on a boat with his mum and settled in Australia in Melbourne back in 2020. So we've got these great success stories, which is really working for us. And it brings such a different element to what we do in mobility. There's one thing obtaining visas and supporting an individual coming from, you know, from the US or Europe, but when you're supporting and providing, you know, literally an entirely new life for people in another country, it's such a rewarding thing to do. And then again, it's gone further. We've signed up with the Australian Red Cross. So we're partnering up to 200 refugees who have arrived in WA, and we're building their skills to gain employment here. So some of the statistics, they're terrible, but something like only 17% of refugees are in paid work 18 months after arrival. Their median wage upon arrival when they do work is significantly lower than anyone else in the national wage. Some of the barriers that they have to get gainful employment, you know, include lack of work experience, industry knowledge, references, English language. So Accenture has built a program with the Australian Red Cross. And that's really to enhance refugee skills. We provide job readiness support so they can develop their CVs. We assist with their English language. We've also do mock interviews for them to really get them into that workforce. And that's not necessarily coming into an Accenture role. It is generally to get them prepared for any type of work that they're looking for. So that's actually now a paid partnership with the Department of Home Affairs, and we're continuing that into the next financial year as well. So, you know, this whole kind of skills shortage, talent pools, what's out there, I think, you know, I found that it's time to kind of broaden the horizons in what we do in mobility. I think it's such a rewarding part of the role when you do start to explore different areas, not only for these individuals that you're helping, but for the diversity of the teams that you're building within your organization. So if you haven't had the opportunity to speak to Talent Beyond Boundaries, I absolutely recommend you do. And if there's any feedback, or there was trials and tribulations along the way, but if I can help any of you, I'd be happy to assist any way I can.
Thanks, Amanda. And we will actually throw open, once we've gone through some of these awards, I will actually throw open for some questions, because I think not only is your story really inspirational, I'm sure there are a lot of people that will have some questions about, you know, how did you go about implementing such an amazing program. I know the judges, when I looked at some of the judging feedback, they were incredibly impressed with the success story, and you know, providing the video was just one of those ways that you could bring to life the application. So a huge thank you for taking the time to share that, and obviously to continue you know, implementing the program. I'm thrilled to hear that it's still working. We actually do have somebody from Talent Beyond Boundaries on the line today, and I'm really thrilled to introduce Rabia. Rabia is from Talent Beyond Boundaries. Rabia is here because Talent Beyond Boundaries came up twice in the awards last year. They actually partnered on top of the Accenture partnership. They had a partnership with IRESS. And ISIS had actually nominated the TBB crew and their whole partnership, and they ended up winning the Partnership of the Award, a Partnership of the Year award. Rabia, can I throw over to you maybe to take this opportunity to shine a light on TBB and the amazing work you do, and the importance of building a partnership with the people that you're actually working with jointly in the community.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that, Amanda. You spoke beautifully about the program as well as the work that Accenture's done with us over the last few years. It's been an amazing partnership both with you and with other employers like Iris. So yes, Deb, our award was in partnership with Iris, but we look at new employers every single day, and we're hoping to make this a permanent pathway in Australia. So really the work we're looking to do at TBB is addressing a skills shortage that you're all probably very familiar with, addressing it with a bit of a creative solution. because we do have skilled stream pathways into Australia, but these skilled stream pathways are not always readily accessible to people who come from certain backgrounds. And the backgrounds we're talking about here are those that are refugees or displaced. So really it originated when in 2016, 2017 as a result of what was happening in Syria and the Syrian refugee crisis. But since then it's grown just phenomenally, which is, you know, both good and bad. It means we've got a huge talent pool of skilled people, but it obviously means that refugee problem isn't going away. So yeah, we're connecting with employers like Accenture, like Iris, to see if we can address the skills shortage at your business by tapping into this network or this new talent pool of highly skilled individuals that really just need that opportunity so that they can leave their, you know, home countries or countries of origin to start a new life for themselves. So it's been absolutely amazing. The interest has been phenomenal. We're actually in the third phase of the pilot. I say third phase of the pilot, but still in pilot phase. We are going to make it permanent one day, but that's how it goes for now. But originally we had 20 spots, then we had another 100. The third phase is now another 100. So we're looking to fill 200 spots by July this year. And we're at about 85, just putting that out there. If anyone wants to express interest, now's the time. I'd love to have a chat in detail about, you know, what skill shortages we can address at your business. But yeah, it's just been amazing, and I'm very proud to work for an organization like TBB that does this kind of work in this space.
And the partnership is so important, Gian. When it comes to doing this, you obviously can't do it on your own.
Absolutely.
And that was the thing that really shone through with the Iris submission about how the two of you, the two organizations, really work so closely together to actually make this this work. So yeah. Let's assume that there's a few people on here that would love to be partners with TBB. What do you think sort of brings that? What's the glue that brings those partnerships together and makes them so successful?
Yeah, well, we always pitch TBB as a program that is very much employer led. So I think that's the key starting point. There's a lot of organizations out there that do a lot of great work in the humanitarian space, but our difference is that we work with employers to identify the needs at their business first, and then we go out and do the skills match with our talent pool. So I think that's key with Iris, or the work that we've done with Iris. They're actually one of the first organizations to come on this journey with us. And they first hired through, I think, it was either our first or second pilot, I'm not too sure. But there's been a lot of iteration since then. So I think the willingness for Iris to come to the table, potentially change any recruitment processes they may already have, or they may have done international hire, sure, but be sensitive of, you know, certain requirements or certain needs that these candidates may have that is different from someone like Amanda said who comes from Europe or the US or something like that. So just be willing to work with us to really understand the circumstances of these candidates. And also I always say there is sensitivities you have to be aware of, but it's good to approach it like you would any other international hire with some nuances. That's how we kind of pitch the program. So be willing to come on that journey with us and really make it work. You may not have a particular role you're looking to fill. You may just want to see the candidate pool at large, and that's totally fine. But that approach has really worked too, where people aren't like, we just need 3 engineers and that's it. That's all we're going to open up to for TBB. They want to see a variety of different people from different industries, different roles that they could employ somewhere in the business. So they've already made the decision they want to work with TBB and hire someone, and they're not too fussed on, you know, where that person sits in the business. So just that willingness to work with TBB, potentially change processes and come on that journey with us has made a world of difference. It also makes it easier for the business as well, because once you do go through this for the first time, it takes a lot of work up front. If you've not done something like this before, yeah, sure, it's a lot of work. But if you take the time and do it properly, the second hire, third hire, potentially, you know, multiple hires through TBB will become a lot easier because you've now got a process in place. So that's what we're really looking to do with some of these newer, larger corporates that we're engaging with this year.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. And I think, Amanda, you've sort of highlighted the fact that you know, by doing it once, you're doing it multiple times again. So, you know, as you say, it's building those processes and understanding where things move.
I think testament to the actual skills pool as well is that our hiring managers were not aware that these individuals were coming through the TBB program, because we wanted to ensure that we were still hiring the best people. There was concerns within the organisation that as soon as the hiring managers realised it was a TBB, it was a refugee, whether there would be some disconnects on the projects on, are we just hiring people under our inclusion and diversity banner, or that it looks good on paper. So we made a conscious effort that we didn't advise people. They were online interviews. The hiring managers at the time were not aware of the background, and certainly we just wanted to ensure that the program was used for the purpose, which was really to fill that skills shortage. It wasn't considered to go under any of our other pillars. And I think it was, as I said, testament to the types of skills out there. Fardy and others that have been recruited on their skills and what they can actually bring to Accenture, not on the fact that we want to look good on paper.
Yeah. And I think that's a really important point, and one that came across very clearly in your application, Amanda. Great. It's a great pickup. Thank you. Tracy, I know Tracy's here somewhere, unless I hope she hasn't dropped off. There she is. Tracy Shaw was one of our task force members who had the lovely job of doing a lot of the interviews. As some of you may know, we have 3 ways that you can apply for an award. You can do the traditional, write your application out and submit it. You can do something a little bit more in line with what we're doing now and do a recording and actually submit that, or you can join with one of our task force members and they'll actually do an interview for you. Tracy, I wanted to just throw it over to you, because I know you did a number of the interviews for us last year, and from you and I having had previous discussions on the task force, some of the things that you noticed was obviously the preparation that people put into their interview. Would you like to just sort of share a little bit about how you found those that had really prepared for their interviews?
Yeah, sure. I think the ones who jumped out for me were the ones that were quite short and snappy, like had all the detail, quite punchy, I guess, rather than long-winded, so that, because I know all our judges have time is precious, of course, so we need to be able to ensure that the judges get as much information as they can. So try and keep it short, punchy, and just quite straight to the point, I think, is the overall quick picture.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Our task force are fantastic. They actually help get us through the record number of interviews that need to be done. None of them get involved in the judging process, which is really important for us to say. So they don't get involved. They literally just try to facilitate and make you all feel as comfortable as possible as you're doing it. But a lot of people do seem to opt for that that video option, which I would just say this year, given the numbers that we had to do last year, get in early, because the poor girls were back to back with interviews trying to get through everybody. But yeah, you're right, Tracy. I think that punchy, straight to the point, make sure that you can address the key criteria is really important when it's all said and done. Thank you. Now, Eva Tanner won the Outstanding Contribution to Emergency Management. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to join us today. So I'm going to move on to one of the ones that I think was really unique in the different sorts of applications that we had this last year. Katie Babato is part of CommBank, and Katie, you won the Workforce Innovation Award. I would love to throw over to you to share a little bit more about some of the innovations that you implemented last year.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Deb. And it's such a wonderful call to be on. You know, the insights learned about all the award winners are so inspiring. So thank you, everyone. Just a little bit about me. I'm Katie Barbado. I lead the Global Mobility team at CBA, and I have been in the team for 11 years now. And before that, I was in consulting in global mobility at EY as well. So my whole career has been in global mobility. Essentially, I was nominated for the work that I did in setting up international working from home in a chatbot. So I guess if I start the journey, in September 2021, on the back of we were still in the midst of the pandemic, but starting to come out of it, we at CBA introduced an international working from home procedure. So that allowed employees to work in 9 different countries around the world. We've been a little more strict in their view, in that we'll only let permanent residents and citizens work in those 9 countries where we have an office, so that we can manage any corporate and tax obligations that arise in those countries. So that was sort of the first tranche, and we mobilized that in a very manual environment. And I'm sad to say we're still in a manual environment with our small team of 3 managing all requests manually. So we're receiving hard copy, Word declarations and requests, and we are tracking all of our individuals in Excel. But what we did find on the back of launching that procedure is we were getting numerous questions. There seems to be a resounding inability for people to read procedures and FAQs. So and it's a growing problem. It seems to be getting worse and worse.
It never gets any better, Katie.
No matter how simple and easy you make them, yes. I'm sure a few people are laughing and nodding on the call. But this was an ongoing theme. And so with a small team of 3, having repeat questions that are very clearly addressed in our FAQs and procedure was consuming an enormous amount of time, because my team of 3 had picked up international working from home on top of our day-to-day management of international transfers and assignees as well. So it was just another portfolio of work that was sort of just we were the recipient of, and so just had to manage it as best we could with the same headcount. So what we needed to do was start really thinking innovatively about how we could address these ongoing questions we were getting from employees. So it was 2-pronged. My request to leadership was 2-pronged. The first one was, look, across at CBA, we had just launched a chatbot called Dash. So the whole theory of be there in a dash. And it responds to general HR questions that our employees have. So just for everyone's awareness, CBA has in excess of 48,000 employees in Australia alone. And so naturally, there's a whole host of HR questions that employees have. So the broader business unit that I sit in launched this technology platform called Dash. And you really had to sell your business case as to whether you could sort of get a seat at the table to be on Dash as a platform. So whilst it wasn't my brainchild to come up with Dash as a concept, what I did do is pitch very loudly and forwardly with our leadership team to say, look, this would be a great opportunity for global mobility. This is a new portfolio of work. Unlike permanent transfers and international assignments, that you do get repeat questions. You get the same sort of themes emerging in the questions that you ask. And so the technology could support well the type of questions that we get. So I was listened to and they agreed. The other question I had, which is still, a burning platform for me, is automating international working from home requests. And what we'd like to do is use Workday Extend to allow the automation of requests and hiring manager approvals where they meet their eligibility criteria. And also to auto-reject the ones where they don't complete all the information and don't meet the criteria. So that's my second item on the wish list. I'm not quite there yet. But so essentially what we've done is we've launched the bot. We have had, since the start of the policy, we've had 700 applications that our team have managed. We've had in excess of 500 inquiries that the chatbot has managed on our behalf. So it is an interactive chatbot. So the beauty of it is when a person asks a question, it can answer that question, it can answer another question, it can also suggest topics if they've asked a certain theme of question. So it is quite intuitive. And so we're still on the journey of convincing people it's as good as speaking to someone or sending an email and getting a response. What the big sell for us is that they get an immediate response, and then they also can ask another question, and they don't have to wait 2 business days or more to get a response to the questions that are answered in the FAQs, but they just haven't taken the time to read. but you know, it's really saved our team an enormous amount of time, and it's a starting platform for us, and we really want to continue that journey. It is it's smart in the technology, and in that we get great real-time feedback about what it hasn't been able to answer. So of the inquiries we've had, only 19 actually then asked to speak to a HR representative. So that was a really good return rate in terms of the technology not being able to answer the question first time. So what we can do though is look at the analytics around the 19 that had to be transferred to a HR officer, just to get some further insights around how we can build out the multiple iterations of questions that we already have in the technology.
That's amazing. An incredible amount of inquiries being addressed, and as you say, only 19 that couldn't. Are those 19, are they going to be able to be programmed in to answer, or do you think they're the sorts of questions that will always require a human to answer them?
Look, they're more the but why questions.
Why
am I not eligible? Why is that policy in place? Why can only permanent residents and citizens work in a country? Why won't you accept tourist visas, as an example? So unfortunately, there is definitely some learnings within those 19, the feedback that we've got on the 19. You know, sometimes we can make what I've learned, and I've been able to tailor 3 of the questions to make the answers a little clearer. So there is definitely learnings within that, but you know, I did have a small chuckle when you see the themes that emerge into why they needed to speak with a HR advisor.
Yeah. Fantastic. What an amazing initiative, and something so exciting to sort of start to see automation and the digitalization of the mobility function, you know, and being able to use it in a way where you've still got that human element, where you're still able to actually receive questions. Congratulations, Katie.
Thank you.
I'm sure there'll be a few questions in a few minutes to you, so hang tight on that one.
Will do. The only thing I'd add, because I'm sure it's a question everyone has, is the platform that we've used to launch Dash is Amazon Web Services. So if anyone's interested and wants to do a big pitch with other HR divisions within their organisation, that's the platform that we've used internally, and then obviously tailored it to our needs.
Wonderful. Fantastic. Thank you. You probably preempted that one. Very good. Well done. Well done indeed. Monique, can I throw back to you just to maybe talk a little bit about the judging process? Because I know over the time we've had questions about the judges, and we make a real effort to make sure it's as independent as possible. But I'd love you to spend just a few minutes just sharing the judging process so people understand, I suppose, how the judges look at their applications and really understand when they've won these awards, that they've really won these awards because of the dedication that the judges have put in place.
Yeah, happy to. So once you are selected to be a judge, and I would highly recommend everybody give it a go, you'll basically get access to a portal which has all the different applications that have been lodged under each different category, both the written ones, the videos, all of those ones. If you are a service provider, what you do is you basically, and I think there's a few, so probably Selena, myself, and Anna, and I might have missed someone from Eric. Basically, we go through the list and look at where is there a conflict. That could be a conflict because they're either my personal clients or they are an EY mobility client, was basically kind of the line we had to take, or a people advisory services client for the work I do. And I know that Selena and Anna did the same thing. And we basically decline those applications and wish them all the best, obviously, because we obviously want them to do very well. Once we've got that kind of final list, each judge is given a selection. So not every judge judges every single application in every single category. So it's kind of randomly assorted. So you might have 2 in one category and only 1 in another category. And then you basically either watch the video or read the application. So each application is looked at across a defined selection criteria, which sort of aligns to what either the interviewers sort of went through with you or what you've put through in the system. And then each part is scored out of 20. It is a long process, so it does take a bit of time, but it is really worth it. I mean, personally for me, I watched all of the applications in one category and then made the decision around kind of where people sat on the various bits and pieces. Sometimes, even though it's out of 20, you end up with exactly the same score, and you might go through and think, you know, which way do you go? And then there's a chance to write comments, and those comments are then what flows through ultimately to Deb and the team around, you know, what feedback do we want to give the people potentially if they didn't win, you know, why, or what could they do next time to really strengthen that application, but also, you know, where there was something that was just outstanding in application that you really want to be drawn out and either discussed at the awards or given that feedback to the person or the team. You could do it through that method as well. So it is a time consuming process, and I know Kim spoke to that in the gala, but it's super rewarding, and it really, I mean, it inspires me, and I think it shows that we're all doing such amazing work. So if you get a chance to do it, would highly recommend sort of putting your hand up. It's really quite structured. It's very automated. You can do it over like a glass of wine in an evening or something, or coffee or whatever you want to do. Yeah, highly recommend everyone kind of put their hand up. And I know that Deb mentioned before that, you know, task force don't get into the judging. So I am on the task force, but I wasn't involved in any of the interviews or anything like that. So I sat out of that process. So I could be a judge. But yeah, I imagine next year I'll be more involved in the task force side.
Yeah. Thank you. It's one of those areas where you know, I would encourage you to put as many or as much detail in your application as you possibly can. And if you do, when you look at our judging panel this year and you say, oh, there's a person there that I'm feeling a little bit uncomfortable with, I don't want them to review my application, you just need to send us a note to say, hey, there's a potential conflict there, and we will exclude that particular judge from the judging portfolio. One of the other things that we do is to help is we do discovery calls. So before anybody gets selected, for those that haven't participated in the awards, we'll actually do a round of discovery calls where the task force, so Astrid, I think you're on the line here as well today. So Astrid and Monique and Tracy and a few of the other guys will get on and give you a call and have a bit of a chat about the types of programs that you're actually implementing in your organization, and give you a feel as to which awards might be the right category for you. So we're there to try to help you as best we possibly can to make sure that you can put the application in at the in the right award category. Sometimes we might even suggest you put it in 2 categories because of the very nature of the awards. So thanks very much for that one, Mon. One of the last awards that I should say before I say goodbye to Monique actually won the Distinguished Service Award last year, which is actually in honour of all of the work that she has done over the last couple of years for TEMi. This awards program in particular, and also the task force, Monique has been so instrumental in actually driving and making these changes to the program as we've gone along. So it was a well-deserved award, Monique, and yeah, a huge thank you from me to you on all of the work that you put in to help TEMi and the community going forward.
You're welcome. I love it. So happy to.
That's good. The last of the awards that I wanted to bring up was the GMP 1 award. It's one of the awards that is an individual award. As some of you may know, some of your staff may have already completed their Global Mobility Professional Training designation. But each year we run a number of classes, and we have some students from all over the country. And I think we've even got somebody enrolled from Singapore this year to participate in the GMP 1 program. Esther Atala won the Outstanding Achievement Award. Esther, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
There she is. So Esther was the recipient of the GMP 1 award last year. Congratulations. Well done. I thought, Esther, maybe you could just give everybody a little bit of an overview of why you did the program, and maybe how it's actually helped you in your role at Atlassian.
100%. I think I actually completed the course because it was my first year in the global mobility space, And one of my colleagues, actually, Charlotte Doyle, who also completed the course, she has 6 years or now 7 years of experience in this space. And she said to me, the amount of knowledge and understanding that you have, just obviously you attain it when you get the experience, but then having this course just solidified what she already knew to be true, but also identified opportunities for improvement. So I felt like, well, I am new to this industry. I would love to gain knowledge wherever I can. And honestly, it was absolutely incredible. I think when you look at the strong competition to attract talent, also the skill shortages and pushing into getting to new markets, having that understanding of managing mobile workforces as well as compensation and those components and cross-border legalities, it really can shape your program. And for, I think, me personally, it's not just taking, I think for Atlassian, it was taking us from a great place to an even greater place, because I think it's not just about attracting talent, but also retaining talent. And the way you do that is you constantly improve.
That's wonderful. Yeah, it's as you say, telemobility is such a key instrument, and I think we've seen that today with Amanda Beasley and the TBB team and Rabia, and understanding exactly how you can use mobility to address the skill shortage is huge. So thanks, Esther. I'm glad you were able to attend the awards as well. That was very, very exciting. So thank you for that.
My pleasure.
All right, so I'm going to throw it open to any questions. If anybody has any questions for any of our award winners, now is the time to jump in. You don't need to be too formal. You don't need to put it in the chat. If you'd like to ask a question, please feel free just to unmute yourself, and we can ask the relevant question. I can see Ursula's making a comment. Thanks, Ursula. Does anybody have any questions for Katie with regard to her bot or what she's been doing, or maybe Jonathan with regard to leading a transformation the size that he had to lead?
Could I jump in with a question for Monique?
Yeah, please, Bridget.
Thank you. Monique, I'm just interested to know what proportion of people are using the either written or recorded application and the interview process for applying.
I would say this year probably 90% were videos and then 10% were written. And that's probably similar to the year before, maybe even more so videos this year. I think the written ones can take a really long time to write, as I'm sure each of you are aware. If you're applying for other awards, it's obviously easy to kind of then pick up and use it across different ones. But I think the video really just allows people to kind of sometimes articulate things that's harder to write, but definitely a higher portion of video to written.
Thanks.
Katie, Ursula has a question here just on the chat bot, and wanting to know how many approved applications did you end up with from the inquiries that you received, and does the chatbot deliver a yay or a nay too? Yes or a no?
It's a very, very good question. Unfortunately, it doesn't do eligibility assessments. The reason for that is we need to understand when the employee last travelled and how long they spent in that country. And so that was one of the eligibility criteria that we couldn't quite get past, and we really needed to validate that the information they were providing was correct, and they were providing it. And so we did a few tests to see if we could do that. The purpose of the bot at the moment, and I've got visions for the future, is to address the FAQs and the questions that the employees have, and to understand a little bit more about the eligibility criteria. So we don't really have the analytics around how, and I haven't done it yet, but it is a very good question around how many people of the individuals that engaged with Dash turned into cases that we approved.
Fantastic, thank you. Amanda, I've got a question for you just with regard to the TBB solution. And as you were saying before, that you were certainly addressing the skills gap. How have you found the response in the broader business with regard to finding these new skills, given that was really your focus, was on finding people who do have the skills that you need?
Yeah, look, it's been a huge journey, as I said from the start. But I think the success is the fact that not only have we managed to successfully employ refugees, stateless people who are here, or it's the fact that they're still with us. I think that's always a success. There's one thing getting them across the line, and we all know in mobility that a failed relocation, the cost to the business, the individual, the extended families is significant. So the fact that we started the program in 2019, I think to date we're on the 7th employee that is still with Accenture, really shouts volumes that the program works. But also, once they've gone through the mobility process, we kind of hand them over into the big bad Accenture world, and it's been amazing the buddy systems that have been created on projects, the support that has been surrounding these individuals to ensure not only do they start in a new role, but they're supported outside of the office, that their families are supported, and that it is actually working, because there's nothing worse than thinking that you put all this effort into a new program that actually fails, and it fails the individuals, and you fail the project leads and everyone else. So it has been hugely successful, and I think much from mobility perspective, we're so proud of it, but I'm also proud of the way the organization as a whole has really wrapped their kind of love around the program and these individuals coming through on it.
Yeah, wonderful. No, thank you. Rabia, I might, if you're up for it, I'd love you to put your contact details in the chat, so that if anybody does want to explore working with TBB, that they've got the opportunity to give you a call or send you an email. That would be absolutely wonderful if you could do that.
Absolutely, I'll do that right now.
Yeah, thank you. That way, if anybody needs anybody, you know exactly who to call. Lee, when it comes to Curtin University and your transformation project, how have you found it moving forward into this year? Are you still seeing that transformation is gathering momentum?
Yes, it's interesting how it's evolving. During COVID, we received a substantial number of personal requests, so employees wanting to return to their home country for personal reasons, and we're now slowly starting to see more requests for Curtin University reasons, and the collaborations that I referred to previously, where they were just doing them sort of by themselves, they're now formally coming through our global mobility team. So we're hoping that we'll see a bit more volume as the year progresses. We're also working on formalising the procedures and guidelines. So in the university, people don't necessarily have to follow the rules unless it's in a procedure. So we're going to work on formalising that and ensuring that people do really stick to the program that we've set out. We've also recently conducted a few information sessions, so refresher sessions, hoping to continue to do those at least every 6 monthly, to remind people we're here, you need to engage if you're considering working overseas. So it seems to be an ongoing process, which is good. We're in sort of almost a maintenance sort of phase.
Fantastic. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I must say thank you to each and every one of you for taking the time out today to actually share your stories with everybody else. Hopefully this has inspired and given some people some new ideas, what they can do themselves within their own organisation, no matter how big or how small, no matter how big the team is or how small the team is, there are opportunities. And likewise, when it comes to personal advocacy, we've got some amazing people out there like Ursula and Jonathan and Monique and Astrid and Tracy, and people who are really putting themselves out there to support the industry as a whole. So I would suggest, certainly encourage everyone to connect with them and take a leaf out of their book, and obviously keep waving the banner for the global mobility function, and the amount of amazing things we can do when we have a culturally diverse workforce. So I'm going to wrap it up. It's 3:20. We definitely didn't need the time that we'd allocated, but I think we've got through everything that we needed to. So on that note, a huge thank you. Have a lovely afternoon, and we will see you at another one of our TEMi events very soon.